Hello and welcome to the culmination of the Spring Cleaning Hobby Challenge. I'm Sam from OnTableTop and I'm joined by Lance
From OnTableTop.
and Ben, who surprisingly enough is also from OnTabletop.
But in a digital realm of its own. So yeah.
Yeah. So we're here to look at the winners of the Spring Cleaning Hobby Challenge. I'm really excited. I've been looking over the projects and there's some fantastic stuff in there.
We have a million projects in this time. I think this is probably our most successful project or
Yeah, probably.
competition that we've ran because everyone can get involved. Everyone's got old miniatures, whether they're 2 weeks old or 2 months old, 2 years old, 20 years old. Everyone has something that they can update. And I mean, even if you just painted it recently, you can kind of look back on it and check again, see what improvements you can make. And that's really what the competition's been all about.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who haven't been following, the Spring Cleaning Hobby Challenge was a challenge we set for all of you to dig out your old, unfinished, or just unloved hobby projects and give them a new lease of life. So you had to create a project in our project section and then take that through to completion throughout the months of April and May. The winners were chosen through a mix of community votes and through our own team choices. So the prizes were for Best Skill.
Best skill, which was the most skilled work, be it painting, modelling, anything that you may. It was essentially just the best skill that was involved in the project. Next up, we had best tutorial, and that was who could best show off their work, the show off each step that they went involved. So whether it be from buying the model in the shop, bringing it home, the more detail, the better in these tutorials usually. How you built it, how you converted it, how you created the base, how you primed it, how you painted it, etc., etc. Basically, how you did it and how someone else can read your topic and think, oh, I can do that the exact same way.
That's actually one of my personal favourite parts of the whole project system. I learned so much just going through those.
It's good. It's a good source of inspiration, I think, as well. Next up, we had the best idea. So it didn't matter if you're highly skilled in your project or if you did a mass amount of miniatures or paintings or any kind of thing as well. It's the best skill best idea that brought it into. So it didn't even have to be necessarily miniatures based. It could be anything.
Yeah. Now the other category, of course, was best junior member for
That
anyone
was 16 and under.
Yeah, 16 and under. But unfortunately, we didn't get any entries in that category this time, did we?
No, we didn't get any entries this time. Maybe it's because most 16-year-olds are now just getting into the hobby. I don't know. Maybe or maybe we just didn't adhere to the younger crowd this time.
So Ben, what did we do instead for this one?
So instead of looking for a junior beast, what we decided to do was we'd do a team choice award. So because we had the 4 vouchers to give away, we decided we'd put together our brains and come up with a team choice award that would go to one lucky winner, which we'll get into later. So yeah, very cool.
And each of these winners are, of course, getting a voucher for the OnTableTop store. So you can use that to get your next hobby project going.
Exactly. And then start that again and then look after that next year when we do another spring cleaning challenge. So
Yeah.
The cycle never ends.
The cycle continues.
Yeah, it's the circle of life.
That said, though, we got a million projects in this year. If you have a look around here, like the list goes on. We have some privates here, but that's okay. We'll skip through them. But as you can see, this list is endless. I think it's our biggest project that we've had to date, as I said before, and a lot of people have really joined in and really enjoyed it and continued it through to this day as well. So spring cleaning is going to merge into summer cleaning very soon.
Yes, I can definitely... I've seen a lot of the projects have been talking about how they want to... where they're going to take this next and how they're going to carry on with it. Now, of course, you guys have been going over some of these on the hobby hangouts we do every Wednesday.
Yeah.
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 So...
I just saw a comment here saying Amanda asked, does mental age count? Well...
I'm eligible. So, unfortunately not on this case. But yeah, so you guys have been following on the hobby hangout. You've there've been some particular standout ones as well.
Yeah, we like the past. I was going to say 6 months, but it's more like 12 weeks. I think that we've been looking through these projects, and every week we've been looking through in Hobby Hangout. So if you want to, you can come across ontabletop.com/hobby hangout or beastwar.com/hobby hangout. You can see the archives and see what people have been working on as well, as long as our commentary too. Some nice inspiration ideas from that. We've been looking over them in the last few weeks. We've been seeing how they've developed, and like I've been voting in a few. I don't know, Ben, if you've been voting or if you've been completely unbiased. Who knows?
I may have put a couple of votes in here and there for a couple of ones, and
Yeah.
also a couple of the ones that came out towards the sort of tail end of it and sort of into June as well. Also got some golden buttons too, so that was pretty cool as part of our community spotlights and stuff for each week. But yeah, very cool.
Now, of course, you guys, you're the old hands at live streaming. Usually when I'm sitting here, I'm filming an interview. I'm feeling a bit nervous. What happens if I mess something up? How do I retake it?
You can't.
I can't retake it.
No.
I'm flying without a safety net. No! Okay. Yeah, we're going to move forward and we're going to look at some of the highlights that we've picked out from this lot. Starting off with Clearing My Backlog by Steel Raining.
Yeah, this was pretty interesting. So this is, I think this is quite a new member, to be honest, the Steel Reading. I haven't seen their name often other than this project. But, yeah, interesting thread. Ben, you can maybe guide us through here.
Yeah, so this was one of the projects that we looked at a couple of times on the Hobby Hangout as it was sort of coming together, and it really went into the sort of spirit of what the whole sort of idea of the Spring Clean Challenge was, because it was looking back towards a whole bunch of really old models that were, as part of different collections. A lot of it is very much Warhammer based, although there's some confrontation in there as well, if you like your werewolves and stuff, which is pretty cool. But it was taking a lot of those sort of older models and sort of revamping them with new paint schemes and doing some of the really cool stuff with the basing, especially, was really, really good. And which you can see on some of the Necrons there. And I think there's also like a Knight/Titan. I'm not entirely sure what it was. But yeah, very, very cool models with some really cool new basing ideas to it. But, yeah.
As you mentioned basing, Ben, we've talked about this on the Hobby Hangouts, but the basing here that you see is made from old disposable plates.
It's so cool, yeah.
Old disposable plastic plates. So and green stuff, obviously. He's sculpted his own green stuff bases. These are more like the sci-fi sheet metal ones, whereas these here pieces here, individual tablecloth and disposable plastic plates for some of the bases.
That's genius. I never would have thought of that. That's something I actually saw a lot of coming through here, is just how creative people were in utilizing bits and pieces to make very effective conversions and basing designs.
Definitely. It really takes a hobbyist to look at a plastic plate and think, that's it, that's what I want, that's a sheet metal platform right there.
Yeah.
It's one of the cool things about this hobby that I think is really fascinating, is that even though we've still got loads of newfangled ideas for people to play around with in terms of 3D printing and that kind of thing, people are still doing the stuff that they've done for years and years and years, which is going to find other bits and bobs from around the house and turning that into something to use on your tabletop. Lloyd has all his tin cans and all that kind of thing that he uses to build things and all that stuff. So yeah, it's good to see other people just getting household objects, looking under the sink for stuff, and putting it together to use in hobby purposes.
Yeah.
So,
We are often swimming in tin cans here that are going to be used in a hobby project in some
Please
future.
take them away.
So Ben, this one, Clearing My Backlog, was one I think particularly stood out to you, yeah?
Yeah, this was one that I was really fascinated by. I really liked it. I think it was looking back towards some of those older things and just seeing really classic old Hammer style models done with that new style, and that basing idea was really, really fun as well. I really, really enjoyed how that had been done. The big thing that sort of like capped it all off as well was the way that confrontation werewolf had come together as well at the end. Loved the really nice bright blue skin that they went for as well, which is really sort of go towards that fantasy edge of things, which was really good. And yeah, always nice to see something from confrontation come to the fore. But yeah, very cool stuff from Steel Raining.
I hadn't really considered, but looking at that confrontation model set alongside that Chaos Warrior, the style of the sculpt actually fits in quite well with, like, the whole Age of Sigmar hair metal aesthetic. That fits in very surprisingly well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could easily work as a warlord for a new force. And if you're going to be playing a lot of Age of Sigma or something, you could drop it into a Chaos Warband or something. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Be a good Beastman warlord.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, the thing that always annoyed me about the Beastmen in like Warhammer Fantasy and Age of Sigmar is they're described as being this absolutely chaotic horde of lots of varieties of animal-human hybrid, but all the models are just goatmen. It's just goatmen. So throwing in some other ones like that would be a very cool
If
way
you have
to
a
mix it up.
description like that and it's just goatmen, you need a lot of imagination to bring that to fold, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, we have 22 Years in the Making by Sundancer. What can you tell us about this one, Lance?
Yeah, I actually quite like this one. I thought it was very interesting to see the progression between old and new, essentially. The perfect description for the spring cleaning challenge, really. So he's taken an old model. So if I scroll down to the bottom here, if I quickly, hopefully you guys won't be.
You could click View Oldest Entry first.
Yeah, but I have to load it up again. So, taking an old White Dwarf magazine,
Yeah.
using the tutorial from that, and painting one of the old Space Marines from that time period today.
Not just an old Space Marine, old Chaos Warrior there.
Yeah. Well, he's specifically going for the Space Marine here. So you can see the steps here going towards on these photographs. So, like, back in 20 years from now, 98, or 22, 96. So, I mean, the
year Pokemon came out.
The tutorials are a bit simple. Let's put it that way. And
Paint it blue.
yeah, paint it blue. There's not much shading to it. It seems to be paint one surface, paint the next. But you can see here that he has his original miniature that he's painted back in 96, along with the brand new one as well. And how clean he actually gets a miniature is quite something to be said, because it really shows how much you may not notice, I think, after years and years of painting, that you may not notice that your brush control has improved significantly. But after so long, it's kind of like looking at a magic picture.
Yeah.
After a while, you start to see it blends in, and the technique, without knowing it, you become a lot better. You become a lot more consistent, and I feel like a lot of people have like the negative attitude towards whenever they paint. They think they're not good enough. I think that's, without swearing, I think that's BS. I think a lot of people will improve significantly with time, patience, and just a little bit of humor involved as well. And I mean, this is a perfect thing to see. If you look at the detail, I actually quite like the back of the mini. Go to Lloyd's special view here. There's a lot more detail in this model compared to the one from 96. And you can see that he's built up that patience, and it really shows. I think it was really impressive.
Yeah, I got into Warhammer in like the late 90s, early 2000s, so I was still using the tutorials like this around there. I remember where it was all just no colors anymore. I want to paint it blue, everything, and he's still got a very good eye-catching effect. It was interesting to see him going back to those that old style. He even got the goblin green base.
Yeah. He said that he would have painted the Chaos Marine as well. Unfortunately, he couldn't find it.
He couldn't find it?
Couldn't find the original.
But
I swear
maybe next year. Maybe next year, Sundancer.
I swear I have one of those sitting in a box somewhere over there, I think. There's just an old version of it that's still unpainted that I might have to break out and have a go at, I think. But,
yeah, nostalgia demands it, Ben. What are people saying in the chat there, Lance?
I like Sundancer. He says that in the White Dwarf book, they're not tutorials, they're guidelines. So yeah, blueprints of how to paint a miniature, really. But I mean, that's still impressive that you've taken on your own thought process, all the things that you've learned in those 22 years, and you've applied them to even just that basic tutorial.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing in itself. I mean, you can still follow a tutorial, but you can still get significant improvement with your own experience and your own skill, what you've learned over the years as well.
That is something I didn't think about when this hobby challenge started. The very act of going back and digging out old projects and just seeing how far you have come.
Yeah.
That is a real ego booster, as you were saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can really encourage you.
yeah, I think so.
It's been really fascinating. I've been painting up some models recently this week, and the different stages in which I paint them kind of looks back towards the way that I painted things when I was younger. So, for example, when I do all the base layers, that's how I would have painted when I first started the hobby back when I was like 11 or 12. And then when I added the wash on top, that's how I started. That's how I painted everything when I got to about the age of 18, 19. And now when I go in and do all the highlighting and shading and all that kind of thing, that's how I paint now. So it's kind of weird seeing that in model form as I'm painting. But yeah, it's really cool looking back and seeing all your old projects and stuff like that. Yeah,
I really want to hear that song. There's a new song in the pops at the minute. It's like when I was 4 years old, my daddy taught me. It's like you could really apply this to like tutorials. When I was 4 years old, my dwarf taught me.
You wouldn't want to know how my dad. I used to rope my dad into my hobby to try and help me, but he hated miniatures gaming, and I've told this before how he got so fed up with trying to stick my Slam Mage Priest back together that he got the tile cement and just tried to stick everything together with that.
Hey, if it works, it works.
It didn't.
Why did you not return to that and spring clean it?
Yeah, that's an idea. I've still got it somewhere.
Yeah.
I had no idea where the
Go
guy's
back
carrying him.
Go back and carve it out.
You have to. Oh, that's gonna be tricky. I actually did return to one of them a while ago and deliberately built up a base around it so you couldn't see where the tile cement was. Okay. Let's move on to another one. This is one that really caught my eye. The Cyberpunk diorama by Shingen. If you want to bring that up, please. Okay, yeah. So this is one that really stood out to me as something very different. So what he's done is he's seen the... If you go right down to the bottom there. Yep. Oh, no, there, that one. Perfect. You see this. This is... There was a Japanese artist who created these little bookshelf inserts that are almost small dioramas, backlit, showing alleyways and city streets. And when you put them in among the books, it has a really cool optical illusion effect there. It's almost like there's this whole world hidden in your bookshelves, which I, of course, absolutely love. Now, Shingen saw that and went, I can turn that up to 11. And set about making their own cyberpunk diorama for their bookshelves. And they took us through every single stage, from painting all the different pieces, all the models that you'll find there. They really went to town with the detail. They did a mock-up to plan it all out and prepare it. Yeah, the end result is just something so eye-catching, and it's completely different to anything I would have imagined for it. I would never have thought of going back to some of my old models and bits and pieces and ideas and just going, I could make a really cool ornament out of this. I could make a really cool piece of decoration from this.
Because that's one of the things that I thought was really fascinating when I saw this project, is that you were looking back at something where you had all these old models that were probably never going to see use on the tabletop ever again, but repurposing them into something like this and creating like a diorama or a vignette or whatever is just a really interesting way of taking on board that idea of spring cleaning and using stuff again. And as you can see, there's a lot of work put into not just the painting of the models and all that kind of thing, but also the building of the terrain too. There's so much detail work that's gone into the buildings and all the graffiti and all that kind of thing as well. So yeah, and even little details that you're probably never going to see when it's in the bookshelf, but it's just a really fascinating thing to get in there with the torch and have a look at, which is really good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ben, but before you started talking there, Lance suggested I get rid of one of my books, which shows how little you know me.
You just need bigger shelves, clearly.
Yes, definitely.
This is really mesmerizing for me, because this looks a lot bigger than what the bookshelves suggest here. Unless those are huge books, But that piece, it looks a lot bigger whenever he's
Looks like a
planning it
PC
out,
tower.
and it's I
Yeah.
don't know, it's really messing with my mind here. I think it's because he's been constructing it flat, and then whenever he builds it, it encloses in on itself.
Well, it's also there's a little bit of, like I said, an optical illusion there if you go back to it, because it's deliberate. Now, if you show those pictures there, it's been deliberately built so it looks like the street is curving around on itself, so it gives an impression that there's far more to it than there actually is. Having said that, it is still quite a sizable diorama.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I really
It's got
like
a car in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, enough space to park a car in it. There you go.
it. It's a nice little story as well. Like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
Like, is he after her? Who owns
See,
the car?
See, that's the cool thing with dioramas. I love dioramas where it's not just showing off the models for the sake of showing them off. It's actually putting together a little bit of a story at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it's great to see that portrayed here. So
They have quite a good book collection too.
All right, Sam. It's not the books, Sam. We're looking at.
You may not be. Well, you were the one asking who owns that car. You've got to. You've been car shopping for too long now.
Yeah, that's it.
Car shop. That's how I think you go out. You go buy a car. You just go out with a little Tesco's bag and you get your car.
Yeah, I look at dioramas first.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Okay, moving on from that, we have one that I think Jerry particularly liked. Abaddon the Bit Smaller by Magrathian Apprentice.
Yeah, this is pretty impressive. So, as the old or the new Abaddon,
Yeah, Abaddon. Abaddon.
was
Abaddon.
released, McGrath Apprentice decided he'd paint up the old version as well, just to see if he'd bring some new techniques to the table, using the old miniature. So here, stripping off some of the old paint, attaching some green stuff. My goodness.
Yeah, it
I
was a
didn't know
very
he had
involved.
foot on rock syndrome.
Yeah, but this was deliberately designed foot on rock. He went in
Oh.
and he cut the leg apart to put the foot on the
Oh,
rock.
so he did, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was the original, and then he stripped it back.
because he was trying to, I think because the idea here was that he was taking this original sculpt for Abaddon and then he was re-sculpting it and changing it around and tweaking it so that it would be in the same pose as the new version of Abaddon that we see for the new edition of 40k, which is very, very cool. But yeah, I think we talked about this one a little bit on Hobby Hangouts before. We were very, very won over by the look of that sword in particular. The way that's come together is fantastic. You've got that real feeling of the demonically possessed blade, which weirdly enough Abaddon has, and Archeon also has one in Age of Sigmar. Conspiracy theories. But anyway. They're all in the same world. But anyway, yeah, really, really cool looking model. So much attention to detail going into all the different aspects of the creation as well. I love the way that the armors come together and the skull rack as well with all the helmets on it too is really good. But yeah, fantastic paintwork.
I really love that he's
McGrathian.
McGrathian is taking in just a digital render of gradients across these like circles, create his own eyeballs to test out gradient on the
That's
wow.
really cool.
on the armor plate.
Yeah.
It's a very nice research touch. And if we go back up the top, we can see the finished piece here. Well, we'll not go up.
That's
Have to
the kind
do
of
it
thing we like.
manually. Do
That's
it
the kind of
live.
thing we like seeing in
They are doing it
in
live.
projects like this, though, is that people are putting in that a little bit of extra effort to talk about the research that they've done when it comes to painting something as well. So-
That I don't think that's his finished model. That
No.
one that you showed. That was just. But yeah, the end process it is fantastic, and I like many others do have a bit of a soft spot for the old Abaddon model, but when compared to the new one, it is very clunky and very static looking, whereas this one he's really breathed new life into that. Let's look at just some simple changes, and a really good enhanced paint job has made that a far more intimidating model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it stands up to the new version as well.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I like the little cartoon he put together there. I'm gonna go smash Cadia. Wait until you're older, but I want to smash it now.
Very
Okay.
impressive. I like that a lot.
What are people thinking in the chat?
People are thinking
Bring it up.
they're saying hi to each other.
Hello. Yeah, make sure
Yeah.
to let us know what what were some of your favorite projects as well. Were there any that inspired you, or have you set out on your own spring cleaning challenges because of the ones you've seen here? Make sure to let us know. Okay, I think we've got one more of these highlights to go through, and that is the boot sale bargains by Lornor. Yeah, this is one I really just like the look of because he rose to the challenge on this one. Yeah.
Okay, I've actually got all the entries first here, so we can look at it chronologically here.
Hey.
So yeah, Loner going to his karate club, run the stand at school. Fate.
Yep. Fate.
Fate. I've never encountered that word before.
What? You've never been to a school fete?
No. A book sale. Book sale. Okay. Picked up a lot of minis, and he needed help to identify some of them. He picked up quite a few.
Yeah. Well, this was the thing he was saying in there that they're not a they're not a 40k player before this, but they found all of this jumbled box of miniatures going for a tenner, and decided to set themselves the challenge of can I paint these up? And there were some that I think there was some Space Wolves. Some
I mean, this box for a tenner, that's someone throwing out someone's hobby there.
Yeah,
I feel like that's more of a punishment than anything right here.
Yeah, pretty much. There's demons, there's everything in there. Some of them do have some bits and pieces missing or were broken, and Lorna went in and has cast up some of the missing pieces themselves.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, yeah. There's actually been a lot of work and attention going into making these a unified and finished-looking force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I think the focus here was taking a lot of the stuff that he'd done and turning it into two different armies, wasn't it? Because he's focused towards I think it's Space Wolves and also a Demon's Force as well, which is really cool. But it's been really neat looking through here and seeing how he's been tweaking all the weapons and that kind of thing, changing the basing styles as well. I know at some point here he was talking about all the rebasing that he's had to do, and also reworking a lot of old transfers as well, and making sure that they were, ready to be used once more on the new models, which I thought was really cool. So it's a proper, tinkering labour of love, this one, as things have changed up and developed for this.
Yeah. I was especially interested to see how well, there you see what that you can see they literally had their blood, sweat, and tears go into this project.
I'm skipping past that. I don't.
Yeah.
I hate seeing that. I've been editing Menes for the past 3 weeks now, and every time he uses a drill, I'm cringing at myself.
Oh yeah. I never thought of watching a sculpting video as an adrenaline rush.
Oh, especially whenever you see it in slow motion.
Oh, you don't want to catch him getting his hand in slow motion.
No,
you want to save that for the Christmas special.
No, you never want to see that.
I was especially interested to see how Lorna found workarounds for missing pieces and stuff, because I recently went and I dug out my old Lizardman army, and there's a lot of arms and bits and pieces missing because I'd essentially, in my infinite wisdom, bunched a whole load of the Saurus Warriors in a plastic bag. So, yeah.
What you mean is a 3D movement tray.
In a 3D movement tray. There we go. Those 3D movement trays are going to live on longer in infamy, aren't they? Yeah.
I'm just looking at this Rhino here, and it looks like you could really convert this into a USB slot holder here. Just for those two windows.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a new project challenge. How can you find...
It's a new spring cleaning project.
Yeah. What everyday household uses can you find for those old models?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put on my nerd glasses and say that that's a predator, not a rhino.
Oh,
whatever, Ben.
Nerd.
I don't know anything about GW, so.
Although that is a rhino that you're looking at now. Well, actually, no, it's the Demolisher, isn't it? But yeah, anyway, there's stuff there. There's stuff there.
As I always say, to me, all tanks are just a car with a gun rack. So, yeah.
Big, heavily armored cars.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent stuff in all of those. Really well done to everyone who took part. We do have a few more. We're gonna.
Indicator.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat at the same time. I just wanted to, because Manda's corrected me that it's called a Vindicator. There we go. But I also wanted to mention that Doug the Thug was talking about stuff in the chat. He's saying that he's still doing a little bit of spring cleaning himself. He's got Blood and Plunder has been picked up at the gaming club, and he's
Oh, good
revisiting
call.
some of his old models that were primed in dark brown, and he's been trying to awkwardly try and get the skin tones right and stuff as well for them. So yeah, and then LSR also said that they're amazing miniatures, which they are. I know Lloyd enjoyed painting a lot of those too, but it's good to try and get stuck into different skin tones with the Blood and Plunder range, because you've got so many different tanned pirates out there in the middle of nowhere in the ocean and stuff. So.
Here's Lorna's most recent entry as well, which is this Chaos Tank. Chaos Spider Tank. Don't correct me. I know I'm right.
I think it's called a Defiler. I'm not sure.
It's a Chaos Spider Tank, so and that's what we're going with.
Chaos Spider Tank. Okay.
I can't remember what that one's actually called. The Defiler's the one with the cannon head.
Oh, that's
Soul
the
Grinder.
Defiler. Soul Grinder.
It's
Manda
alright.
has
John's
made
not
us-
here to correct us. It's definitely a Chaos Spider Tank.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to try and take on that with a rolled up newspaper. Yeah.
No.
So yeah, actually, on the topic of the pirates thing, because I will bring almost anything back to either pirates or Terry Pratchett eventually. I've been. This whole thing has inspired me to go back and dig through. Well, this and the fact that my gran has moved in with my parents, so they've been chucking out a lot of my stuff. So I've been hurriedly running around trying to rescue as much of it as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going because I've been playing tabletop games since I was about 10. So there's a lot that has built up there, and because I never throw anything out.
You're as bad as these ones in here.
No, I throw out tin cans. I throw out tin cans. It takes a while, but I do. But I just get sentimentally attached, okay? But I found my old... I had a whole Karakadrin Slayer army, the Dwarf Slayer army. And among that, I had Longdrong's Slayer Pirates.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I've got that whole crew. They're what I think I'd like to go back and do next. After I've finished painting everything else that's currently sitting on my bench, including the Shadespire Underworlds, Molog's Mob, and some Doctor Who miniatures I've been painting for a friend, I think I'm going to return to Longdrong's Slayer Pirates and see if I can make that and ready for a game of Fantasy Pirates games with maybe Cutlass or something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. What about you guys? Was there... did this make you want to go back through your collections to see if there was something you could return to?
Well, for me, it's one of the things that I was looking at quite recently. My old dwarf army that I used for 7th and 8th edition of Warhammer, I've got it sitting somewhere, and a friend gave me a huge cardboard box that was full of old dwarves that he'd like half painted, and he was like, you know what, as long as you don't sell these, you can have them. So I was like, well, that sounds perfect to me. So I've been going through that and sort of like picking out some of the models and things, because there was a whole bunch of the old really good Citadel dwarf thunderers, and I'm really tempted to sort of break out a few of those and paint them up and put them back together as part of my Warhammer army. Because while a lot of people are playing Age of Magic and all that kind of thing right now, me and a friend have been talking about going back to Warhammer 8th edition and giving that a go again as well, because we had a lot of good fun with that. So he's got an ogre army and I've got a dwarfen army as well from Warhammer, so we're going to give those a run out again on the tabletop. I think it'll be really cool. So
Funnily enough, I've been talking with a friend about returning to try some old 8th edition games as well. Just another reason why I was digging through for some of my old armies. How about you, Lance? Was there anything that you want to return to?
I don't have any old armies, nor did I have time. Too busy with UK Games Expo, getting married, buying a new car.
I like that you put getting married second on that list.
Oh yeah, getting married was first. So that was a very stressful time, so it was. Yeah, I didn't really have any time. I painted, I think, one mini over the course of the whole competition, and that was the Walking Dead stuff, which I've really been enjoying, but there's nothing that needs revamped in my collection.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever... I remember a while ago you were talking about potentially getting some Caradron overlords and converting them so they were all on space hoppers. Is that something you think you'll return to?
Yeah, I would have to buy 3 of them though. I only want 1.
Nah.
So I think that's the main issue with a lot of the Warhammer stuff and like all these new things. Is I look at a model and I see one that I really want. I'm like, "Ah, I just want that, but I don't want to. I don't want any of the rest of them. Like I really love the Skaven,
Yeah.
just because they're so crazy. I think they're fantastic, but I really don't fancy painting up a million rats just to never play. So I don't know. Maybe in another 10 years' time, I'll return to Dungeon Saga and maybe play it as well. Not sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now there were a couple more entries that we just wanted to highlight. Some people actually started their spring cleaning challenge after the deadline, so they started theirs in June. So unfortunately, they weren't eligible for any of the prize categories, but they were still pretty cool. So we thought we'd take a look at 1 or 2 of them. Yeah. The first one up is Ghost Bear's Undead Saga Warband. Yeah.
So this was one that we'd highlighted as part of a community spotlight, and we've also talked about on Hobby Hangout as well. But this was a fantastic way for him to use up a whole bunch of skeletons. I think the skeletons were from about 3 years ago. He'd also got some zombie trolls and all kinds of things that have been taken from games like Kings of War and that kind of stuff. And then he's also added in a few bits and pieces from Age of Sigmar as well, with the way that the I can't remember what they're called now, the Nighthaunt. That's the one. He's using them as well to sort of create a new force that he's going to be using for Age of Magic, which is, Jerry has turned everybody onto right now. And but yeah, some absolutely fantastic painting here. The work on the skeletons in particular was absolutely brilliant. Even though you had to stick the feet on separately from the models, but the shields look really good. I love the sort of like worn verdigris feel to them. The actual sort of warm, sort of aged bones that the skeletons have was really good too. I really like that touch there. And then as you go through to see the rest of them as well, the zombie trolls look fantastic, as does the warlord too. A really fantastic model using some really nice techniques to create that ghostly sort of balefire look to the skeletons. So yeah. Very, very good stuff from this project there by Ghost Bear. Yeah.
I was very excited to see the zombie trolls because I've had a morbid fascination with the undead forces for quite some time, but one of the things I always got annoyed at was that in these vibrant fantasy worlds with so many different factions and races, the only undead you ever seem to see are humans.
Yeah.
So, humans and the occasional zombie dragon, because someone got very creative one day. So yeah, seeing...
There's no steps in between, is there?
No, it's just human, dragon. The Necromancer, how to be a Necromancer guidebook is very short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's either you spend a little time practicing for humans, or you spend a very, very long time practicing. You finally get up the level to reach a dragon. You're like, well, what's the point in the rest of it?
Yeah.
I'll just do a dragon.
Yeah.
Just raise that.
No one thinks about the patient, self-taught necromancer who spent all their days working on, their family hamster.
Yeah,
they've gained an army of zombie hamsters.
Oh, that's so
I
sad.
want to see this now.
It reminds me of back in, I think it was 6th or 7th edition Warhammer. There was a regiment you could buy in metal called Richter Kruger's Cursed Company.
Yeah, they were brilliant.
And he was a Empire soldier who was killed by a necromancer or a vampire in battle. I can't remember exactly what. And he got turned into a skeleton, but he absolutely hates the undead. And so he fights for anybody but them. And the cool rule that he had was anyone that he killed might join his unit of the undead. So his unit was actually made up of not just skeleton humans, but there were also orcs and dwarves and all kinds of... I think it was Skaven in there as well. Yeah. So it was a really diverse and interesting mixed up unit that you could use in your armies, which was very, very cool. Hopefully more people will do something like that in the future. It would be really good to see. But an amazing warband that was. Man, I wish I had that model. Yeah. It was so cool.
Funnily enough, I did have one model from that warband.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I took part in a tournament back when I must have been about 12. With my Lizardman army, and I went up against Friend's Undead army, and I was absolutely hammered. And he gave me an undead lizard man model from the Cursed Company
Oh,
as a
awesome.
consolation prize. I couldn't tell if that was a consolation prize or a taunt. Yeah,
You're dead, mate.
Don't know.
yeah, pretty much.
I think consolation.
Yeah, it was a cool model. Okay, moving on. We have one that I've actually typed wrong here. I think it's Zebra Outriders, 3rd Armored Division, Savlar Chemdogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a one that really stood out to me, and of course would have caught John's attention because it's tanks, all the tanks. But what stood out to me was that he's specifically going for an Imperial Guard regiment called the Savlar Chemdogs, who I hadn't come across before, and who I immediately started researching once I saw this project. And the whole idea about them is they were a penal colony who were allowed to loot the battlefield. They're allowed to keep
Right.
anything they take from the battlefield, so they're thieves and scroungers. And
Cool.
a lot of that is shown in the tanks that Zebra Outrider has created for these. I think there were 3 tanks they were working on. The first was their commander's tank, a Lehman Russ Exterminator, which they made over Easter. And then they followed that up with 2 Forge World Solar Auxilia tanks. And you can see in the project just all the different stages that it went through to make these look like they belonged to a unit as disreputable as the Savlar Chemdogs.
I think it's really cool seeing the amount of work that's gone into making these look so down and dirty and horrible and grimdark. They're very, very cool looking, especially when you see some of the stuff towards the end as well. But I love the fact that we're seeing something where the miniatures are painted well, but they're painted well to a theme and an idea and a narrative behind something, so they all feel like they're knit together on the battlefield. Very cool.
Yeah. Just looking at these now, it's like the Dirty Dozen where it turned up to 11. It really is. Without the latter's charm. Oh.
We may if we run out of the office
Yeah.
at any time now, it is for our protection.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just
Ben-
had the fire alarm briefly appear there.
Ben, in the meantime,
I'll
if the
think
internet still works,
And
he will
carry
take
on.
care of everything, and
Yeah.
he will describe in pure detail exactly what you're meant to see.
So yeah, Ben,
Like
sorry.
listening to an audiobook. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben, sorry if the if the building starts to burn down, we're leaving you here.
No, my TV realm will melt.
Okay. How are things looking in the chat? What are people saying there?
I don't know. I haven't been looking at the chat.
A lot of them have been talking about undead stuff. So Doug the Folk was saying that Dungeon Saga have made a nice dwarf zombie, but there's not a lot of them about. Manda says that it was a consolation taunt, losing, and Sundancer has also talked to the guy who's riding the tank commander's like, drive me closer. Fix bayonets and all that kind of
So I can hit him.
Sorry, Lord Saint is saying drive me closer, hit him with a sword, and Sundancer is saying fix bayonets to attack the tanks. So yeah.
Yeah, very very Corporal Jones. Funnily enough, I know about that tank commander. He's actually a Commissar Lord model that had the bottom half clipped off to use in that as that tank commander. Which again makes sense because apparently that penal legion needs a lot of commissars to keep them in line. Okay. That's it. That brings us to the winners. Okay, once again, the categories were for best skill, best tutorial, best idea, and the team choice. I think we're going to start with the best tutoring.
Team
Just so
choice.
the
Oh,
team choice
yes.
one is not to be confused with the Teen Choice Awards, which are for an entirely different thing on television.
Yeah,
Don't worry about
no,
that.
team with an M.
So, just to give clarification, because we didn't have a junior entry, we went for the team as in
Yeah.
Beast of War team, OnTableTop team, chose the best winner out of all of it because we didn't have a junior this time. I don't think it worked quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually quite hard to choose. There were some fantastic ones, but I think we all agreed in the end. It was just it had to be. Okay, so the first one, best tutoring. The winner goes to Ben. Can I get a drum roll? I don't know if that was a drum roll
Have you
or
ever
a phone
played
call.
drums, Ben?
It was a recorder roll.
All right, okay.
Excellent. The best tutoring goes to Spring Cleaning in the Burrows by New Bolter. Excellent. Congratulations, New Bolter. This is a very well-deserved prize. Ben, it's of course Burrows and Badgers. Do you want to take it away for this one?
Yeah, sure. So this was a fantastic project from New Bolter, who had been doing some stuff in the past when it came to building training stuff for use in Burrows and Badgers. But this project was enabling him to take a lot of the stuff that he'd been working on before but never finished and get round to building new bits and pieces for use in his games. And as you say, this one won Best Tutoring because it was scored very, very highly in this category because of the amount of detail that went into talking about how exactly he was building all of the terrain that you see here. A lot of it was very much done from scratch, and it goes back to what we were talking about at the start of the live stream about sort of those older techniques for creating things, because a lot of stuff exists currently now in terms of the 3D printing that people can do, but this was sort of using all that stuff that, you know, we used to see maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where people are taking everything from their kitchen sink and all their cupboards and all that kind of thing and building it into something for use on their tabletop. And as you can see here, it created some absolutely fantastic looking pieces of terrain that have been used and painted up for games of Burrows and Badgers.
Those little cabbages are so cute.
It was, and as Laughing Boy said, it's not fixed. I didn't pick it because it's Burrows and Badgers. This is why we have the score system.
Yeah. This again is genuinely the case of enough people voted for best tutoring that this won that category,
and it wasn't me making multiple accounts and clicking. No.
I was wondering why we suddenly saw Brennan 1, Brennan 2, Brennan 3.
Exactly.
I thought the family had come on board, Ben.
But yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff. It's been really great seeing all of the stuff that was sort of part of those older projects that he'd been working on, sort of building it up to create something new as well, and seeing how it was sort of inspired by his love of the game and throwing in those little tiny characterful elements, as you see, like, you know, as we're talking about with the veggie patch and all that kind of thing as well. But yeah, a real sort of credit to New Bolter for putting together such an amazing project that's full of really interesting and diverse ideas, showing up all the different steps for it as well, and going through all the, you know, stages to it as well. But yeah, I especially liked anything to do with the sort of like crazy birdhouse that he built, and also the trees that he's been building out of the wire armatures and all that kind of thing too. A really fascinating project.
Yeah. I admit this is one I'm going to be coming back to because, of course, Games Workshop will be bringing out the Scouring of the Shire rulebook for Middle-earth strategy battle game soon, and there are plenty of terrain pieces in here that I think would work very well in a Shire table. So I fully intend on going back over these and learning from how New Bolter made these.
I really love the fact that I'm currently logged in as Justin here on the website. And this won Best Tutoring, but Justin has just gave it 0 tutoring marks at all. It's all skill and idea in this one.
Oh dear. Well, just goes to show.
I was just going to say as well, interestingly, when you're talking about the project that you want to try and do for the Scouring the Shire and things, they are, Games Workshop, I think it was Forge World, are bringing out a set of sort of facades for use on Hobbit holes. But obviously, as you say, using some of the extra stuff for the foam and things here would be really good, because they're not building any of those bits and pieces. They're kind of leaving that to you. So this would be a good thing to come back to. And I think that's the key thing with anything that's sort of focused towards the idea of a tutoring project, is that if you put so many ideas in there that people can use, you know, in their own, you know, projects and that kind of thing, you're going to score very highly. So yeah, very good.
I have seen that Forge World stuff. It looks fantastic, but the problem with using, if I want to make a village using Forge World, I'm going to have to take out a mortgage. So,
oh yeah, very true. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. It's time for the Best Skill Award. Ben, can you give me a better drum roll?
Can you hear that?
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that was pretty good, yeah.
It's much better.
Yeah, we have Spring Cleaning a Stomper by Carlos Spicter. Oh, yeah, this one was one of my all-time favorites.
So Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, they made a stomper out of a Mr. Potato Head. Now, this was actually a spring clean. This was a project they started a while ago, and then they came back to for this project. Oh, it's such a great idea. It ends up with something so orky, and again, using bits and pieces from around the house. I think that hat bit, for example, I'm fairly certain that's that's a
cat food.
cat food bowl. Yeah.
Cat food. It looks easier to construct than the actual Stompa as well.
I think we've got one of those. One second.
This is incredible. A lot of people were talking about where the minigun was placed on it, but it's a bit of humor and a bit of Stompa as well. It's never gonna miss.
These guys are orcs. Of course, they put the guns in weird positions.
Yeah.
But no, this was absolutely superb seeing this come together. It's truly taking that idea of just bits and pieces lying around, mixing it together with the traditional plastic bits and pieces you get from kits as well, and building it into something absolutely stunningly awesome, and then painting it well as well, I think is the key thing here. Absolutely amazing one from Carlos Spicter. So
superb work. Actually, sorry, I just found we've had this knocking around for who knows how long. It's an old old Stomper. If bring up the picture there again, can't really see it, but it's not that far off, to be fair.
I think I prefer this one.
Yeah, I much prefer the Mr. Potato Head one. What a great idea, and the skill involved in coming up with something that well finished.
So bizarre.
You can't tell any of the original components that were used. It all fits together perfectly. It looks like it does look like a kit. And does it have a monocle?
Yeah,
it has a monocle.
Yeah.
It's got a chain running down as well. Oh, that was one of my all-time favorites from the entire set. Carlos Spicter, very well deserved there. Okay, now we come to the best idea. Again, voted by you all, and this one goes to. Drum roll.
Oh.
It's like watching Whiplash, the skill of the drummer.
We're going to come around there and slap you, Ben.
Yeah.
You didn't get your timing correct.
We're going to get J.K. Simmons to shout at you. Okay.
Let's throw some chairs.
The winner of Best Idea is Wolflord Warzan and his Spring Clean by Milmar. If you want to take us through this one?
So this was another really great project that sort of went back to that core ideal of exactly what the whole ethos of the Spring Cleaning Challenge was about. It was taking a already painted army that existed out there but needed a little bit of a sprucing up, a little bit of an upgrade. And so he went through and designed all the extra bits and pieces he needed for this, tidying up the paint schemes, adding bits and pieces here and there, working on the basing, designing up the vehicles and that kind of thing as well. And so it eventually turned the entire army into something that's a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more detailed. And that led to an entire army that was then full up of all the things you see there, including elites, HQ, and all that kind of thing as well. It was really good to see this sort of like setting goals for each step of the competition as well. So there was like, I need to work on the troops first and get through to that and finishing those off. Then going through to the idea of painting up the vehicles and the tanks and stuff, working through that one and designing it up. I think maybe it might have done well because it had Warren's nickname in there as well. I think maybe that's contributed to how well this one came across. But a really fascinating idea, and took the idea, took that core belief of what the whole sort of like Spring Clean Challenge was all about and designed it into something fantastic here in project form, as you can see.
Yeah.
So
as you said, the whole setting goals part of this was an excellent idea, and it's something that I don't know if either of you have read much of Dave Taylor's book on hobbying and what was it? Armies and Legions and Hordes. Yeah, that one. It does talk about setting yourselves these achievable goals.
Yeah, I think one of the key things about it here as well was that he came up with the army list that he wanted to try and work to, that he obviously used previously, and then sort of building units to fit that army list. So it means that everything you do is planned out in advance and sort of helps you go forward. So again, works towards that, the reason why this one got such a good, a high idea rating at the end of it. Very cool.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, we come to the last category, team choice. Again, TEM. Tem choice. TEAM. I'm the one who can spell. The team. I'm leaving. The team choice. Can we get one final drum roll, Ben?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Macarena!
Finishing off with jazz hands there, Ben. Absolutely made it. It is the Cyberpunk Diorama by Shingen. Now, we've already talked about this one. Yeah, I think this one just stood out as something entirely different and imaginative. It hits so many of the right buttons for this challenge. Just taking all these old bits and pieces and coming at it from a new direction, and the end result is fantastic. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what do you think of the final piece, then, Lance?
Yeah, we've talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
You've mentioned it again and again. I think it's fantastic. Creating a story within your bookshelf of stories
Yeah.
is fantastic. And I mean, it's a bookend. At the end of it, that's the practical use of it. But creating it into its own little narrative and being able to say, yeah, I made that as well. And with all the technological upgrades, with all the wee LED lights, I think it's fantastic. And it's only going to improve as well. I'd love to see some more as well put into the bookshelf, because it kind of everyone has those gaps and spaces to fill in a bookshelf. Why not fill it up with
Speak for yourself.
some kind of why not fill it up with random other little pieces as well?
Yeah.
It'd be a really good way to separate. If you're a big book hoarder, it'd be a really good way to separate like fantasy to sci-fi
that'd be
to
cool.
non-fiction, fiction.
I like that you seem to think my bookshelves are in any way organized.
For normal people.
Yeah, fair.
Maybe.
No, very well deserved. All of these prizes are very well deserved. Congratulations to all of the winners. Make sure to go to the Claim a Prize pool and enter the form there. And yeah, this will set you up for your next hobby project. And I can't wait to find out what you're going to do with it then. Before we go, just one final check-in with how things are going in the chat, Ben.
So yeah, a lot of people are agreeing with you there, Sam. That why do people have gaps in their bookshelves? Everything should be full. Lord Saint is saying he's on your side. Sundancer as well. Doug the Fug says that it's going to be a devil to try and dust that thing, but that's maybe where the dust devil comes in. Woohoo! That was a funny American joke because they have something called a dust devil. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, cool stuff from guys in the chat. They're all saying it's all very well deserved. Although Laughing Boy said that. Clearly, the Team Choice Award should have gone to Warren for his spring cleaning of his high elves. But I think that may have come into some sort of questioning later on down the line.
We can't enlarge his ego anymore, Martin here.
To be fair, Warren did do a great job with the spring cleaning. Those old Warhammer Fantasy armies have been sitting on our shelves for ages, and just by giving them the new basing, they do look far better from it. So yeah, but. That's it. That is the end of the Spring Cleaning Hobby Challenge. Thank you all so much for taking part. It was a real pleasure to go through all these projects and seeing how everyone has engaged with them. Okay, Lance, thank you very much for joining us on this. And Ben, thank you too.
No worries.
Okay, we're going to carry on here. And I hope you will carry on with your hobbying too. See ya.
Bye. You need to switch.
Yep, I need to put the thing. Wait, we're supposed to hit buttons? Wait, oh, that button!